Hello and welcome. Tonight, court bars parties in the sexual harassment suit filed by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan against Senate President Godswill Akpabio from granting press interviews on issues relating to the case. Supreme Court set aside judgment recognizing Julius Abure as the national chairman of the Labour Party. Minister of Works Dave Umahi reopens the Independence Bridge in Lagos, assures residents that permanent repair work on the bridge will begin within the next 3 weeks. And a Russian missile attack on President Zelensky's home city of Kryvyi Rih kills at least 14 persons, including 6 children.
In on business, global oil prices crashed to 3-year lows, sparking fresh fiscal concerns for Nigeria.
On sports, Manchester City midfielder and 6-time Premier League winner Kevin De Bruyne confirms he will leave the club at the end of the season.
And from the nation's capital, Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alea visits Otuko and Naka over the recent killing of 10 persons in their communities, appeals for information to address insecurity in the area.
Okay, bridge open.
Good news for residents and commuters of Lagos Island area, as the Minister of Works, Mr. Dave Umahi, has officially reopened the Independence Bridge barely 3 days after repair work commenced on the bridge. Mr. Umahi, who regrets the inconveniences Lagos commuters witnessed during the closure, took his time to reel out procedures for closing any bridge in the future.
Now we had a design for the project, and I've looked at the design that we intended to use by using God's wisdom and grace and experience, and we have agreed to redesign the project. It's going to be redesigned as one span bridge, and what it intends to do is to take away the lateral head pressure that was on the abutment and is still on the abutment, to take it away, and then remove the overburden on the abutment, because we are not in the know of the depth of piling, and the pilings in Lagos it's not end-bearing. It is by skin friction, which means that it is the sand that is holding the piles. So where there is scouring or there is excavation of sand, then you will have the piles in danger, like you have in Tom Mainland Bridge, and you have in Kata Bridge, and you have in Ido Bridge, which we are studying the depth of deteriorations so that we can now tackle it.
Now, according to the minister, in spite of the reopening, work will resume in the near future on the bridge, but with a different approach, which will have a completely new engineering design.
Now, going forward, any controller or engineer that wants to close road or wants to close bridge, you will give us, the drone study, for example, in Lagos, all the bridges in Lagos. And then you will be able to let us know at that point of conflict where you are closing, what are the alternatives. And then you will state what is to be done on that place, And then you will state the technical problems and the technical solution. And then you will be able to put up all these exposures to the public. And so we will request for comments from the public and tell them how long it is going to last. And so with this feedback, everybody is in the know. And then we'll be able to do that. And if we say we are going to do this work in 2 days, we will do it in 2 days.
President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has denied recent allegations by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, describing her claims as false, baseless, and a dangerous attempt to incite public unrest. In a statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Honorable Eseme Eyibo, Senator Akpabio firmly refutes as completely fabricated and malicious the accusation by the suspended senator of a plot to assassinate her through the former Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello. The statement adds that the allegation made during a public appearance in Kogi on April the 1st this year is not only reckless, but part of a long-standing pattern of unsubstantiated and inflammatory claims made by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, including previously abandoned accusations of sexual harassment against the President of the Senate. He describes the accusations as a smear campaign, allegedly backed by undisclosed political interests, desperately aimed at undermining the credibility of the Senate and its leadership. To the courts now, where Justice Binta Nyako of the Federal High Court in Abuja has barred parties in the suit filed by the suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan against the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and 3 others from granting press interviews on issues relating to the case. Justice Nyako issued the order following complaint by counsel to Senator Akpabio, Kehinde Ogumiju, that the plaintiff was moving from one television to another, granting press interviews on issues relating to her case currently pending before the court. In a ruling, Justice Nyako said there shall be no press interviews by all parties and their lawyers as regard the subject matter of the case. Justice Nyako also barred parties and their lawyers from engaging in streaming of proceedings in the case on social media. Who will eventually lead the Labour Party going forward? A question in desperate need of an answer. Well, the Supreme Court has set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal in Abuja, recognizing Julius Abure as the national chairman of the Labour Party. An unanimous judgment, a 5-member panel of the Apex Court held that the Court of Appeal lacked the jurisdiction to have pronounced Mr. Abure national chairman of the Labour Party after finding out earlier that the substance of the case was about the party's leadership. The Apex Court held that the issue of the party leadership was an internal affair over which courts lacked jurisdiction. The court further allowed the appeal filed by Senator Esther Nenadi Usman and 1 other and held that it was meritorious. It also proceeded to dismiss the cross-appeal filed by the Abure group of the Labour Party for being unmeritorious. Meanwhile, the leadership of the Labour Party says Mr. Julius Abure remains its chairman following the judgment of the Supreme Court asking all parties to resolve the matter internally. According to the National Legal Advisor of the party, Mr. Kehinde Edun, who briefed the press following the Supreme Court judgment earlier today, the judgment favored Mr. Abure as the party structure duly elected him for a 2nd term, and therefore all party members must align with the party structure.
The Supreme Court even actually, by their statement today, said everybody should respect party supremacy, and whatever decision the party has taken should be respected by all and sundry if you remain a member of that party. Now, what we are saying is that today nobody has recognized, no court, no INEC, no regulatory authority has recognized the so-called caretaker committee. It doesn't have any place in the constitution of the party, and the Supreme Court said today that the constitution should be the document that should guide any political party in its operations, and no caretaker committee was mentioned in the constitution. How will they come in? There is no way for them, because the party has said respect your constitution, respect due process, respect the processes of the party, respect your congresses and conventions. That is what the Supreme Court has said. So this issue of caretaker committee, they are nowhere, and that is the truth. So don't be deceived. Don't let anybody make statements deceiving the public. The reason the Court of Appeal struck out the cross appeal was that it is about leadership, which the court said we are not going to talk about. And the reason it allowed the appeal was because the appeal said leadership is the internal affairs of political party. The Supreme Court agreed with them that leadership is about the internal affairs of political party. It is not strange. That is what the Supreme Court has been doing in the finest tradition of Apex courts all over the world. The finest tradition is to allow democracy to grow, to allow political parties to flourish on their own by their internal mechanism.
Nations of the world, including Nigeria, have committed to set aside 15% of resources and opportunities for people living with disability, who make up 15% of the population. This commitment, known as the Amman-Berlin Declaration, is the outcome of the 2025 Global Disability Summit in Berlin, Germany. Our correspondent, Kayode Okikiolu, reports.
It is said that 1 in 6 of us suffers from significant disability. And the big question is, what is the 5 doing to ensure that that 1 is included? The 3rd Global Disability Summit, GDS 2025, is co-organized by the governments of Jordan and Germany, alongside the International Disability Alliance. The summit brings together leaders to discuss the rights and well-being of people with disabilities worldwide. Chancellor Olaf Scholz calls for stronger support for people with disabilities, saying every country, rich or poor, must do more.
It is in our economic interest, it is our democratic duty, and it is politically expedient. For the first time, agree on a specific funding target. 15% for the 15% is the message of the Amman-Berlin Declaration on Global Disability Inclusion.
King Abdullah II of Jordan highlights the crisis in Gaza, saying it has the highest number of child amputees per capita.
Gaza has the highest number of child amputees per capita in the world, along with massive numbers of injured adults. Medical facilities have been destroyed, and rethinking old ways.
The guiding principle for issues of inclusion is expression. Nothing about us without us. But what does that 1 in 6 person living with disability want the other 5 to know?
We are part of the society and we need to be taken into account.
We also have the ability to doing anything in the community. That's why we want to say that just don't look at our disability, but you must even look at our ability.
Members of JONAPAID are advocating for the Nigerian government to fulfill the 15 for 15 Amman-Berlin commitment.
Amit Borbella from Hungary. She was born without limbs and does everything with her feet.
I don't feel I have a significant disability. There are others, and they have multiple disabilities.
The Minister of State for Humanitarian Affairs, Tanko Sununu, is representing the Nigerian government here. On the sidelines, he is joined by the leader of the nation's delegation, Mr. Jake Apeli, to speak on the Nigerian situation.
The togetherness that you saw today with the Honorable Minister and persons with disability, you will agree with me that doesn't happen back home. But we need to see it happen in Nigeria, within our space, where access to policymakers with strong political will actually happen in tangible form.
We have an act that establishes both the commission and also prohibiting the discrimination against people with disability. So as we are working, we have given commitment that we ensure that operationality of that act is intensified, and ensure that whatever we are doing, we are taking the interest, yearning and aspiration of people with disability, in terms of giving them access to employment, in terms of giving them access to education, in terms of giving them access to workspaces, and also making a lot of infrastructural reconstructions so that they can be taken into concern.
Well, the conversations have been had, commitments have been made, but how well will these commitments be implemented? Well, that's what we wait to see until the next edition of the Global Disability Forum. From Station Berlin in Berlin, Germany, venue of a Global Disability Summit 2025, Kayode Okikiolu reporting for Channels Television News.
In part 2 after the break, Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia visits Otukpo and Naka over the recent killing of 10 persons in their communities. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you have just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Court bars parties in the sexual harassment suit filed by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan against President of the Senate Godswill Akpabio from granting press interviews on issues relating to the case. Supreme Court set aside judgment recognizing Julius Abure as the national chairman of the Labour Party. Minister of Works Dave Umahi reopens the Independence Bridge in Lagos, assures residents that permanent repair work on the bridge will begin within the next 3 weeks. And a Russian missile attack on President Zelensky's home city of Kryvyi Rih kills at least 14 persons, including 6 children. All right, so let's head now to the nation's capital, and Victoria Long John is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Victoria. Over to you.
Thank you, Ayo. In Benue State, Governor Hyacinth Alia is appealing to political and traditional leaders from the Benue South Senatorial District to volunteer information and remain steadfast with his administration to handle rising insecurity in the area. Governor Alia made the appeal during a visit to Otupo local government, where over 10 people were killed in the last 1 month, prompting widespread protests over the weekend by the youth in the area. Addressing leaders at the Ochidoma Palace in Otupo after a visit to troubled spots in Naka, the Gwer West capital, Governor Alia says his administration will do all it can to end insecurity in the state.
Governor Alia's convoy arrives the Ochidoma's Palace in Otupo, where he's received by local government's chairman and ushered into the council chamber. At the meeting are members of the Idoma Traditional Council, the lawmaker representing Otupo Apa, Kennedy Angbo, and the chief of staff to the deputy governor, Mr. Musa Ujo. The governor made clear his resolve to end insecurity, calling on the people for support, which the Ochidoma obliged.
Those miscreants who are creating a bad name for our town, for our local government, and for the state must cease and cease immediately. We call on all the good sons and daughters of Idoma land to please help us, and Igede land to help us. All we require is information.
The governor also visits Naka, the Gwer West local government headquarters, where protesting youths burnt down the local government secretariat. The palace of the Ter Nagi, the traditional ruler of the local government, was not spared, as vehicles and properties were all destroyed.
If possible, a judicial commission of inquiry should be instituted to unravel the circumstances surrounding this and bring those people who are hiding behind the smoke screen to cause distraction and to discredit the government.
At a meeting with the communities in Naka, the youth leaders is asking for the removal of the military from the area, even as Governor Alia calls for calm.
If you go to fetch a water from the river, you must pay money to the army before you fetch the water. The Honorable Governor, we don't need the army longer. We need Mopo.
Let's stop all these internal wranglings. The federal government is doing her very best to support me here in the state for us to ensure that peace returns even to Gwer West local government as well.
The neighboring local government areas of Gwer West and Otupo have witnessed increased herdsmen attacks, where many people have been killed and many communities displaced.
It's an endless battle to rid the country of illegal miners and their activities, and this time, a major breakthrough has been recorded. The federal government says it has dismantled a heavily fortified illegal mining site in Rafin Kaba's Kokona local government area of Nasarawa State. and has arrested 3 foreign nationals in connection with the crime. According to a press statement by the Special Assistant to the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Segun Tomori, the raid was carried out by the mining marshals following a strategic and well-coordinated operation. The commander of the mining marshals, ACC Atta Onoja, confirmed that the site has been sealed off and a manhunt is currently underway for suspects who escaped. The statement further adds that the minister, Mr. Dele Alake, commended the operation, calling it a major breakthrough in the government's ongoing effort in the fight against illegal mining. Now, it appears the government is seeking ways to ensure that the long queues at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos is resolved. Now, according to the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, new security equipment have been installed, which will aid in bringing down the number of intended criminals looking to use the airport as a hub to transport illicit drugs and other harmful substances. Conducting stakeholders around the airport today, FAN's head of ICT, Philip Oyedele, says the equipment will fast-track luggage processing and passenger travel time. Our correspondent, Dominic Iwiwu, reports.
As modes of transportation of humans, goods and services advance in the 21st century, countries and their security agencies are seeking ways to make traveling safe and secure. To aid the fight on illicit transportation of narcotics and firearms, the Airport Authority have installed new machinery at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, which is one of the country's heaviest aviation traffic hubs.
So planning for all the other international airports, to have the same quality of machines. We have people's scan and we have baggage scan.
From scan machines to the biometric date machine and explosive trace detector machine, hard time awaits drug traffickers and terrorists bent on going ahead with their illicit operation.
As the packages are being scanned, it detects that immediately. Then the next scan, I'm going to explain that by using it has a chemistry built in. When you're in the lab, you put in a substance to know what effect. That's exactly what this system does. Once there's a trace of narcotic, it picks it immediately, fast, with the color imaging, and one is able to pick that.
On his part, the Director, Aviation Security Services, Alfred Afegbai, provides further insights into the workings of the installed gadgets.
Like the system you are seeing now is the e-system, in which by the time you collect your boarding pass, your boarding pass gives you access to the immigration department. If you don't have your boarding pass, you cannot pass it, because you just face your boarding pass here upside down and the door will open. So like the automation of the airports, we are working closely with the ministry. My MD has met with the minister, and I think in a couple of weeks from now, the automation system will start, where we'll have a full automated access control.
With these new security equipment at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, the country seems to be on the right trajectory to enhance aviation security and advance measures in airport services to curb illicit drug trafficking and other threats to life and property. Dominic Iwiwu, Channels Television News.
And here in the FCT, the Minister Nyesom Wike says from now on, land will only be allocated to an agency or institution if they are prepared to develop it within a specific time frame. Mr. Wike was speaking while meeting with contractors during an inspection tour. According to him, the ongoing work is satisfactory as the projects will be completed ahead of President Bola Tinubu's second-year anniversary. Inspection of ongoing projects in the Federal Capital Territory has become a regular routine for the FCT Minister to have a first-hand assessment of the work being done at different project sites. The focus today is the Apple-Waru Road construction and Giri district, beginning with this ongoing construction on the Apple-Waru Road. The minister then proceeds to the Giri district, where an access road has been mapped out to the EFCC Academy to pave way for major development in the area. To do what? After the inspection, the minister raised concerns about some vacant lots.
So that also open our eyes as to the kind of land that the university has acquired. I mean, it's not acceptable. You can't deny development. I don't know where a university will go and take over 1,000 hectares of land. For what purpose? We've been to universities, we have gone around to schools. You hardly can. I mean, just the grabbing of land is not the voting. It's just for development purpose.
The minister also commended the level of work being done by the contractors.
We're very happy with what we're seeing and the quality of jobs that have been carried out. We believe, with the glory of God, that Mr. President will also be happy when it comes to inaugurate these projects.
Back to his office, the minister met with the Board of Trustees of the IBB International Golf and Country Club, led by the President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Dongben Mensem. He restated his commitment towards land allocation.
Some of you have heard the view that because the government gave you CFO, it means that the property belongs to you. No. Government has set up agencies and universities. Universities, government give them CFO just to protect the property. So that doesn't mean that because we gave the CFO as University of Abuja, and there the government does not own University of Abuja. That's not correct.
The FCT minister then pledges his support for the club. Now, still ahead on the news at 10, global oil prices crashed to 3-year low, sparking fresh fiscal concerns for Nigeria. That's some business news to join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Commuters plying the Jalingo-Bukari Highway in Taraba State will soon heave a sigh of relief as the federal government has concluded plans to begin reconstruction on the collapsed Nanmai Bridge next week. This follows a visit to the site by the Minister of State for Regional Development, Uba Meriga, 7 months after the collapse, to assess the level of damage done by the flood.
This bridge, located in Namnai community of Gasol local government area of Taraba State, is 43 kilometers from Jalingo, the state capital, and connects Taraba Central and Southern Zone, Benue State, Adamawa, Plateau, and other southeastern and north central states of the country. The bridge caved in after a heavy downpour in August 2024 and rain movement. The situation has forced some motorists to use the only alternative route through Garbachede to Mutumbiu bypass, while other road users had to employ the services of boats to cross over.
We're in dire need of assistance by the government to fix this road. It has brought untold hardship to us.
I am not happy seeing my fellow women, especially pregnant women, plying this route. Most times we have to get them out of the vehicle alongside other sick occupants and carry them on our backs to enable them cross safely. We really need government intervention.
7 months down the line, there is still no sign of any construction company on site to commence reconstruction of the bridge. The first rainfall of the year 2025 in the area has once again plunged commuters into another hardship as it washed away the makeshift route constructed by the locals and forced motorists to risk following through the waters to scale through. The arrival of the Minister of State for Regional Development to the site of the collapsed Namnai Bridge appears to be a good sign, as he assures that reconstruction work will soon commence.
I want you to hold us responsible and accountable, being a responsive and responsible government, that in 1 week, God willing, we'll find solution to the terrible situation behind us.
He applauds efforts made by the Northeast Development Commission in sending engineers to carry out surveys on affected bridges in the region.
I want to emphasize that whatever needs to be done between the federal government and the state government, we will partner.
As the locals work towards reconstructing the makeshift route, The intervention of the government to reconstruct the collapsed bridge will be a big relief for commuters.
And the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, wants the National Youth Service Corps to establish a 2-year program for NCE graduates. According to the minister, this initiative will help in enhancing education in the rural areas. Dr. Alausa said this while playing host to the Director General of the National Youth Service Corps in his office in Abuja.
The Director General of the National Youth Service Corps, Brigadier General Olakunle Nafiu, is paying an official visit to the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa. This meeting is centered on ways of improving the quality of students embarking on the mandatory 1-year service, as well as the welfare of corps members.
So if we have to have a more...
The minister is advocating for a special program for NCE corps members to help improve education in rural areas.
Is it possible for NYC to now work to creating a teachers' corps, where you can get several of these graduating NCE graduates that you can engage specifically? They will sign bond. You work with us at the Federal Ministry of Education and the State Ministry of Education to deploy them only to rural areas on 2 years contracts. Because we have a lot of these graduates out, they finish, they don't have jobs.
He also wants the program to enhance its skill acquisition initiative.
I want you now to put more skills training into when students come to do their youth service. I know the design was military training, which to create discipline for them. That's good. For those 4 weeks or 6 weeks of training, we can work with you to now create some a la carte of skills that you can give these people within those 4 to 6 weeks.
In his response, the Director General appealed for a collaboration to help address the issue of fake certificates being paraded by some intending corps members.
We are proposing that if we could come up with a pre-existing database for Nigerian students traveling abroad for their university, for higher education, so that by the time they are going, by the time they are leaving, the ministry holds a database in respect of them. We help eliminate the issue of maybe fake certificates coming in or certificates from quick fix degrees.
The DG added that the management of the scheme will also be deploying new strategies to reflect the current realities in the country.
And that's it from the nation's capital. It's now back to Ayo for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Victoria. The NNPC Limited First EMP Joint Venture Impact First program is back for its 2nd edition, continuing its mission to support non-profits addressing critical social issues across Nigeria. This year, the program is expanding its reach, awarding over 280 million naira in grants to 12 non-governmental organizations.
Our partners from various organizations.
It's the 2nd edition of the NNPC Limited First ENP Joint Venture Impact First program. Launched in 2024, the program provides crucial support to NGOs tackling critical issues from access to healthcare and education to poverty alleviation and empowerment initiatives for vulnerable and disadvantaged groups across the country.
It is the belief of the NNPC First EMP JV that this approach that replaces end of year giving helps to improve the needs of the underprivileged in our society.
NNPC Limited and our partners are committed to supporting initiatives that align with our core values. We believe that corporate success goes hand in hand with community progress. This belief drives our efforts to integrate social responsibility into our business operations.
Last year, 5 outstanding NGOs emerged as beneficiaries. This year, that number more than doubles, with 12 organizations receiving financial grants after a rigorous selection process.
We start out by inviting our partners to participate in nominating worthy NGOs that are Nigerian-based. They must be registered in Nigeria. And then, when they send in the nominations, we send them a detailed selection form. The candidates who succeed must pass through 19 criteria.
It's not just talk as the benefiting organizations receive the grants. Over 280 million naira is being distributed to empower these NGOs in their mission. With gratitude, the beneficiaries express their appreciation and continue to advocate for their causes.
What we try to do is to demystify the shame and stigma and encourage people to come forward and access care. And this grant is to help us pick homeless, mentally ill people off the streets, take them to government hospitals, pay for their treatment and rehabilitation so that they can return to normal, productive lives.
So like saving lives and giving power to the everyday Nigerians, helping young Nigerians to power their computers and do online businesses. So that is what this grant is going to help us do. Train 20 electricians. There's so many failed solar installations because electricians who go out there to install are not trained.
The joint venture's Impact First initiative aims to make tangible differences in the lives of those that need it the most.
How long have you been managing this business? Some of them will say
Time now for some business news with Will Ibong.
Thank you, Ayotunde. Now, global oil prices have plunged by $10 to $64.90 per barrel, the lowest since early 2021. And this comes amid global recession fears, trade tensions, and OPEC Plus's unexpected move to raise production by 411,000 barrels per day from May. The price drop raises concerns for oil-reliant economies like Nigeria, where the 2025 budget is based on a $75 per barrel benchmark and a daily output target of 2.06 million barrels. Current production remains below target at around 1.47 million barrels per day. With oil providing most of Nigeria's export earnings and government revenue, the slump could strain public finances, deepen the debt burden, and limit funding for critical sectors. Still in the oil and gas sector, NNPC Limited has announced the appointment of a new 8-man senior management team with immediate effect. The team will be led by Mr. Bashir Bayo Ojulari as the Group Chief Executive Officer. Other key appointments include Roland Deubare as Group Chief Operating Officer, Adidapo Shagun as Group Chief Financial Officer, and Olalekan Ogunleye as Executive Vice President for Gas, Power and New Energy. Udi Intia, Momoni Dangazo, Sophia Mbakwe, and Adesu Aduze complete the team in various senior roles. The appointments are effective immediately. And the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, warns that new U.S. tariffs, including a 14% levy on Nigerian imports, could shrink global trade by 1% this year. U.S. President Trump's April 2 announcement has sparked concerns among WTO members. Okonjo-Iweala urged nations to avoid escalating tensions, warning that retaliatory measures could destabilize global trade. She stresses that 74% of the trade still follows WTO rules and calls for dialogue to safeguard economic stability. Now, Beyond Limits, a Pan-African catalyst for digital economy ecosystem, has held a 3rd edition of the Digital Innovation and Creative Excellence DICE with the theme Scaling Right from Market Entry to Market Leadership. The event, which was held in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital, convened some of the notable founders, investors, corporate leaders, and policymakers within and outside Africa to foster strategic partnerships for cross-border expansion. The annual gathering serves as a crucial platform, strategically connecting key players across continents' growing digital economy.
The fireside now is a highly
This year's edition of the Digital Innovation and Creative Excellence DICE 3.0 brought together participants to engage in targeted conversations focused on forging strategic partnerships and leveraging cutting-edge technologies for growth opportunities.
We continue to hold down that space.
The event, which was attended by the Minister for Trade, Industry and Investments, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, the Consul General of Switzerland in Lagos, Frank Eggman, as well as seasoned industry experts, featured discussions and fireside chats on various issues in the tech and business ecosystem.
Knowledge transfer, but we also learn from Nigeria. It's not only what we do, but it's what we can take from here. And if I have something that I would like to take from Nigeria the day I will leave, and I will be very sad to leave this great country.
The convener of DICE and founder of Beyond Limits, Juliet Ehimwen, highlighted the immense potential of Africa's technology sector for both national and continental growth.
The ecosystem is a little bit fragmented or siloed, and there's a lot of benefit in bringing key stakeholders together, because if we're to accelerate growth, the different parts of the ecosystem have an important role to play. There's a role for innovators and startups, there's a role for investors, there's a role for business leaders, there's a role for policymakers to create the enabling environment. And that's what DICE is trying to do, create a platform that brings all these key stakeholders together so that we can accelerate growth in the country and across the continent.
A former Minister of Trade and Investment, Okechukwu Enelama, also shared his insights on ways to equip the continent's technology and business ecosystem.
And I think this event and the work that is being done by Juliet and everybody that is involved in DICE is very important in bringing stakeholders together, to work together to create things that are concrete and produce results for the greater good. There's no question that Nigeria is very well positioned, but people need to actually take advantage of that position by making pulling us together.
With the resounding success of this year's edition, the African tech and business community is looking forward to continued future interactions of the DICE event, as it has facilitated a favorable environment for networking and strategic alliances.
Now, the headline Purchasing Managers Index for March rose to 54.3, marking the fourth consecutive month of business activity growth, and that's according to Stanbic IBTC's latest PMI report. This increase was driven by a sharp rise in new orders, the strongest in 14 months, reflecting a strong demand across various sectors. Employment levels continue to rise for the fourth month, with businesses hiring more staff to meet growing demand. Work backlogs also fell for the 10th month in a row, indicating that businesses are efficiently handling workloads. Also, inflation eased for the 5th consecutive month, suggesting a slowdown in cost pressures. Supplier delivery times shortened in March, reflecting better vendor performance. Meanwhile, purchasing activity continued to rise as companies stocked up in anticipation of future demand, while the rate of output expansion quickened, signaling stronger growth ahead. Now let's check in on the domestic equities market, which pulled back in the final session of the holiday-shortened week. John Mekwa has the details.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, just as analysts had expected, we saw the NGX today, that's Nigeria's stock market, really quiet. I guess waiting for direction from the global scene following the President Trump's announcement of tariffs. So we see today it's down 0.01%, and that's so minute, just about 8 billion shed off the market. So we're still on 105,004. The market cap was still on 66 trillion naira. Now, looking at the sectors, we see banking is up about 0.5%, 0.51%, because of mostly Zenith Bank. Consumer goods is on the flip side, down because of Dangote Sugar and Honeywell Flour, and oil and gas remains in the red. O&O Japan Gold dropped today, and so we see that. Top trades today show some direction, mostly from the financials. UBA, UCAP, and FCMB, they drove the trade today, even though, it's more of profit taking. At the close of today's trade, amidst all the global tariff war going on in the world, the bear is at the market.
And that's business news. It's back to Ayo today for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Will. We'll now take you back to the Supreme Court judgment setting aside the recognition of Mr. Julius Abure as the Labour Party chairman. Well, the caretaker committee chairman of the party, that's the Labour Party, Nadi Usman, has described the judgment as a victory for the rule of law. Mrs. Usman, in a statement after the judgment, says the ruling of the Apex Court is a victory for the rule of law and a significant milestone for Nigeria's democracy, adding that it is important to emphasize that this is not a time for triumphalism, as there's no victor and no vanquished. According to her, what matters most is the shared commitment of members to the ideals and aspirations of the Labour Party and the Nigerian people. The statement adds that the Labour Party remains one indivisible family, steadfast in its mission to create a new Nigeria founded on justice, equity, and people-centered governance. Well, Simon Pusey with international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
Global stocks have sunk a day after President Donald Trump announced sweeping new tariffs that are forecast to raise prices and weigh on growth in the US and abroad. Stock markets in the Asia-Pacific region fell for a second day, hot on the heels of the US S&P 500, which had its worst day since COVID crashed the economy in 2020. Nike, Apple and Target were among big consumer names worst hit, all of them sinking by more than 9%. At the White House, Trump told reporters the US economy would boom thanks to the minimum 10% tariff. He plans to slap on global imports in the hope of boosting federal revenues and bringing American manufacturing home.
40 years, we've had an economy that rewards people who ship American jobs overseas and raises taxes on American workers, and we're flipping that on its head. We're going to cut taxes for American workers and for American companies that build here. We're going to make it harder to ship American jobs overseas. It's a total shift in the way that we've done economic policy in the United States of America, but it was necessary.
We had been requesting the U.S. government to review its unilateral tariff measures at various levels, and we are extremely disappointed and regret that such measures have been implemented nonetheless.
Our intention remains to secure a deal, but nothing is off the table.
We will continue to make the strongest case for these unjustified tariffs to be removed from our exporters.
We are going to fight these tariffs with countermeasures. We are going to protect our workers.
The entire global economy will suffer from these ill-considered decisions.
피청구인을 파면함으로써 얻는 헌법 소의 이익이 대통령 파면에 따르는 국가적 손실을.
South Korea's constitutional court has unanimously voted to uphold the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol. There were tears of joy and sadness among pro-Yoon and anti-Yoon supporters who had taken to the streets ahead of the verdict. Police are on standby in case of any violent protests. In his first remarks after the verdict, Yoon says he is truly sorry for failing to live up to the people's expectations. His short-lived declaration of martial law last December plunged the country into political turmoil. His powers were first suspended when Parliament voted to impeach him on the 14th of December.
In his toolbox, he saw this martial law as a method for punishing the opposition. From logically or reasonably speaking, it was a poor decision. It lacked wisdom, and he is paying the consequences for it now.
At least 27 Palestinians have been killed in an Israeli airstrike on a school in northern Gaza that was serving as a shelter for displaced families. Dozens more were wounded when the Dar al-Akram school in the northeastern Taffa district of Gaza City was hit. The Israeli military said it struck prominent terrorists who were in a Hamas command and control center without mentioning a school. The health ministry earlier reported the killing of another 97 people in Israeli attacks over the previous 24 hours, as Israel said its ground offensive was expanding to seize large parts of Palestinian territory. Veteran Bollywood actor and director Manoj Kumar has died at the age of 87. The actor died of age-related health issues. His son, Kunal Goswami, told a news agency that Kumar had been battling health issues for a long time. Kumar leaves behind him a rich legacy of patriotic films, which propelled him to fame in the 60s and 70s.
And Tom Cruise has paid tribute to his Top Gun co-star Val Kilmer, who died earlier this week, aged 65. Appearing at CinemaCon in Las Vegas, Cruise led a crowd in the Coliseum Theatre in a moment of silence to honour a dear friend of mine, Val Kilmer. I cannot tell you how much I admired his work, how much I thought of him as a human being, and how grateful and honoured I was when he joined Top Gun, Cruise said. The 22 sequel Top Gun Maverick marked Kilmer's last movie role. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's sole representative at the Basketball Africa League, Rivers Hoopers, are set for a big test against Mali's Stade Malien as the league begins this Saturday in Rabat, Morocco. The Kalahari Conference Group phase will take place from April 5 through 13. To other stories now in football, where Pep Guardiola says Kevin De Bruyne will be remembered as one of the greatest players ever in the Premier League after the Belgian announced he will leave Manchester City at the end of this season. The Belgian has been instrumental to City's rise as the dominant force in English football since joining from Wolfsburg in 2015, winning 14 major trophies at the Etihad, including 6 Premier Leagues and the Champions League in 2023. With our sports, I'm Kelly. It's back to you, Tunde.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. After 2 days of harrowing experience by motorists, Minister of Works Dave Umahi today reopened the Independence Bridge in Lagos. The minister also assured residents that permanent repair work on the bridge will begin within the next 3 weeks. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. You have a good night and have a great weekend.